Once I heard about entrepreneurship, I just knew like that was the path. Because I grew up as a basketball player. Like I wanted to make it to the NBA, making millions of dollars playing basketball. In basketball, it's all about skills, right? Instead of like ball handling or shooting, it's like copywriting or sales. And so then I just got obsessed about like getting better at the skills necessary to make money. And then it became fun.
Did you have a backup plan at any point?
At that point, from June to August 2020, I was making like consistent 10K months. And then around September 2020, that's when I met my partner Ibrahim. And we wanted to team up because I was really good at getting clients, but I wasn't really that good at delivering.
Talk about like what that was like when you first started, some of the reactions that you would get from just the internet in general.
I probably had the hardest story in terms of content, not gonna lie. I was about to give up once I met this clarity coach on Instagram. And she basically told me like 3 things that really helped me out. So number 1 is,
do you think just like having that mindset about it allowed you to go viral quicker?
once I had a vision for why I was posting, all started to make sense. I think the reason why most people don't post is because they have like this perfectionism mindset, like, yo, this first video gotta be good, like it gotta go viral.
What's the most amount of adversity you faced?
It put a pretty big dent in our bank account.
Walk us through the roadmap of the different hats you've had to wear and how you guys have evolved and elevated in the business in order to duplicate and leverage your time.
Yeah.
What up? Another episode of Prosper Pod coming at you today. We got my co-host, Gabe Anderson, and we got my good buddy, Renzo, the social media influencer of Chicago. What's going on, bro?
Appreciate you having me on, brother.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we'll get into your story here in a bit, but basically you went from being an intern at Microsoft to running a 6-figure online agency.
6-figure a month.
6-figure a month. Okay. How did you get into entrepreneurship?
Yeah, so it all started when I took a class called Intern Psychology, like my first year, second semester at the University of Virginia. Like I didn't need it, it was an elective. And let's say your boy was struggling heavily in that class. I was getting like consistent like 70s like every single exam. And so the exam was only graded, or the whole class was only graded on the exams. And so then I took the final exam, and guess what my grade was on that last exam? It was a 60. So your boy basically failed that class. And so I just wanted to be, have a good job, have a good career. And I basically got a D+ in that class. And I was like, holy shit. Well, can I curse in this podcast or not?
You're good.
All right, cool. Well, I was like, holy shit. Well, my whole career is over. Because at that point I was getting perfect A's. And so then at that point of desperation, I just like started looking at other things I wanted to do with my life because I thought I wasn't going to get a job at that point. And then I came across something called SMMA on YouTube. It was basically just you run like Facebook ads and Instagram ads to business owners and you try to make money off of it. And so then I tried it. So then I spent like a whole summer trying to start a social media marketing agency.
What year is this?
This was 2019.
2019.
So this was about 5 years ago. Yeah.
Okay.
Or right before COVID,
Right
like
before
a year
COVID.
before. So I started sending like hundreds of cold emails, wasn't getting any responses, started cold calling. And I eventually landed like 3 in-person clients, but I was a complete beginner. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't have like a mentor or anything, and I made no money because I didn't get them any results. So basically the first year of entrepreneurship that summer, like I made no money. But that was my first experience getting into it. It was just like watching YouTube and
Trial and error.
seeing people make money and like, let's try it, but it didn't work.
YouTube University, baby.
Yeah.
Dude, that was basically how I learned how to sell life insurance. It was all YouTube.
Really?
Yeah, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for YouTube University and just watching different sales trainings, different things like that. Yeah. YouTube is just such a valuable asset and such a valuable skill set to have, especially for anybody that's in sales or entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
It's all for free.
Exactly. So because I was broke and like all these people were like selling courses and mentorships, but I didn't have the money to do that. Mm-hmm. And so most people think like, oh, I don't have no money. Like it's not for me, but YouTube's right there. So I just took action. And we'll get into it later in my story, but took action, kept failing. And eventually once I overcame enough failures, finally made my first dollar.
Okay. So went from trial and error 2019. When did you start seeing some traction, some success?
So it was a whole year later. So at this point, a year later, it's 2020. That's when COVID happened.
Mm-hmm.
So then,
And where are you living?
so I was still living like at the University of Virginia
Okay.
in college.
In college.
And then right when COVID hit, moved back to my parents' house. And then just with all my college classes going online in COVID, I just knew like if I didn't try entrepreneurship one last time, like I'd regret it for the rest of my life. And so this time I had enough money to actually invest in a mentor. Like long story short, I was able to get an internship at Microsoft, but that internship didn't start until summer 2020. So I had like a couple months of free time with COVID to just do whatever I wanted. And so then I just thought to myself, if I actually want to succeed in this, like I needed someone to actually help me with it or like hold my hand every step of the way. So then I invested in a mentor. And then once I actually learned the right ways to actually succeed with the agency, then I landed my first $2,000 client within 3 days and then made 10K a month my first month, just like that.
Nice. Okay. And then when did it really start rolling? You're like, I got something here.
From June to August 2020, I was making like consistent 10K months.
Okay.
And then around September 2020, that's when I met my partner, Ibrahim. And we wanted to team up because I was really good at getting clients, but I wasn't really that good at like delivering. And Ibrahim was like the exact opposite. He was really good at delivering and getting referrals, but he wasn't as good at talking to clients and getting them, or he wasn't that good in terms of like client acquisition. So then we combined forces. And then our first month with Growthology, that's
Hold on. Let me stop you there.
Yeah.
Ibrahim's dope. He lives in our building too.
Yeah.
So he's the homie. How did you guys meet, first of all?
Yeah. So in that mentorship that I was talking about, we were both in the same like mentorship group. So like there was this huge Facebook group. There was like thousands of people all trying to make money with it. And let's just say most people weren't that, I guess, qualified to make it. There was a lot of people who didn't have the charisma, a lot of people who just didn't know how to work social media. They didn't know how to talk to people. So me and Ibrahim were one of the few success stories in that Facebook group. And so then because there was so few people, we started connecting with each other like, yo, what's working for you? What's working for me? And eventually we got close. We were like put in this iMessage group chat with 2 other success stories. And then we just started like FaceTiming and talking like every day up until 3 months later, from June 20 to September 2020, we got close enough that like, hey, let's start staying together and let's scale this up.
Nice. Okay. And then I want to go back for 2 seconds to the part when you were first starting and didn't see any success, didn't make your sales. Did you have a backup plan at any point?
At that point, once I heard about entrepreneurship, I just knew like that was the path. Because I grew up as a basketball player. Like I wanted to make it to the NBA, making millions of dollars playing basketball. Obviously it didn't happen being a 5'10" Filipino kid. But in basketball, it's all about skills, right? Like you have ball handling, you have shooting, you have defense. And it's not like that happens overnight. You get better every single day. And so then once I learned about entrepreneurship, it was like similar skills. Instead of like ball handling or shooting, it's like copywriting or sales. Or instead of like defense, it's like speaking on camera.
Right.
And so then I just got obsessed about like getting better at the skills necessary to make money. And then it became fun. And so then after that, I realized like so I studied computer science back in college. And so then learning about entrepreneurship, I just knew that was the path I wanted to go. Like I didn't want to be stuck with like a whole 9 to 5, being stuck in my laptop, just like eyes glued on the screen. Like I actually wanted to make an impact in my life. So there was no plan B.
100%. Okay. So then go back to where we were at in the story. You and Ibrahim, you guys joined forces. You guys decided to partner together. Where are we going from there?
Yeah, so we partnered together. We had a slow first month, not gonna lie. That was the first month I didn't hit 10K in a while. I think we made, I believe we made 8K our first month.
Okay.
But then the next month we made 20K, so made up for it. And then eventually, after a couple months, I would say early 2021, we're talking January, February-ish, we started to scale all the way to 65K a month. And then toward the end of 2021, we finally hit our first like 84K a month, which is a 7-figure run rate. And then by 2022 was when we finally hit 100K for the first time.
Nice. So you guys were rolling at that point. What are your guys' specific roles in the company, and have they changed over time as you guys have been partners?
Yeah. So in business, there's like systems, right? So there's like input, process, output, and you just rinse and repeat over and over and over. And then there's the environment. And so you can control the system, but you can't control the environment that happens. So our roles adapt and change over time. But when I was first starting out, I had the audience at first, and Ibrahim was more of like the delivery guy. So I would get like all the clients, and then he would be the one like managing all the clients and delivering. And then I would say around like early 2023, Ibrahim had his first viral video. He was going crazy. He would have like 1 million view video like every week. So then our roles shifted. So then he started becoming more the viral guy. And then I took a step back to manage our sales team and like handle all the lead flow. And then eventually it shifted again to the point where then my content started taking off a lot. Ibrahim's content slowed down a little bit. And then I became the front end guy again. And he became the back end guy, handling all the leads, all the customers, all the clients. So just like whoever's going viral usually takes the job of getting the clients. And then whoever's not, or whoever has a slower month, is the one like managing everybody else.
Renzo, let me ask you something. So a lot of people, they are kind of afraid to take that leap and put out the content, put themselves out there to go viral or to help build their business or brand or whatever it is. And you and Ibrahim are both doing that. Talk about like what that was like when you first started, some of the reactions that you would get from just the internet in general, and how beneficial it's been for you.
I probably had the hardest story in terms of content. Not gonna lie, a lot of people learning from me now, they always ask about this, and I always say like you're not gonna have it as bad as I did. So before I started posting content, I had like the ideal college life, right? Like I had a Microsoft internship, I had a year-long relationship at that point. I had like a huge social circle, and I was a part of a fraternity too. And then the second I started posting online, like a lot of people that I thought were my friends started like talking shit behind my back, or maybe talking shit right in front of me, just saying like, why are you doing this? Like, this is cringe. Like you have everything, like just stay in Microsoft. Like you don't need to be doing all this. And so then that hurt me a little bit because I grew up as like a super shy, introverted kid. So like hearing all these people like talking bad about me, it almost made me want to quit. And almost to a point where when I hit 10K a month, when I hit 10K a month my first month, I actually landed my first $2,000 client within 3 days, but I didn't land my next 4 $2,000 month clients until the last week. So there was like a 3-week period where I was making no money and all these guys were talking shit. Everybody was hating on me. And so I was about to give up until I met this clarity coach on Instagram. Super random, but she saw all the things I was struggling with. And so I hopped on a call with her. And she basically told me like 3 things that really helped me out. So number 1 is you got to cut off all friends who don't fully support you, right? So all these people talking shit, the new frame I had was like, they're not my real friends in the first place. So I would rather know that now than to live the rest of my life knowing they never had my back in the first place. So that's the key, is like when you post content, like it's not like a bunch of people are going to hate on you. You just know who's there for you and who's not. Mm-hmm. And that'll save you maybe like 30, 40 years from now if you're still friends with them and they don't have your back. Mm-hmm. Number 2 is everything in life is never something done to you. It's always something you learn from, right? So when I was posting when I was posting all this content and people were talking shit, that actually prepared me for when I was going viral later, right? Because now going viral, you're going to have some haters, right? You're going to have a lot of people love you, but there's also going to be a lot of people that hate on you too. But all the hate comments now, it doesn't really affect me because I've gone through so much worse personally, like when I first started. And then finally, number 3 is just you always have to have like a vision for your content, or like a vision why you're doing what you're doing. So the vision I had was I just wanted to give as much value as possible, and people know me that anytime you talk to me or anytime you see my content or anytime, you just have a conversation with me. Like I always try to give as much as I can without asking for anything in return. And that's like the brand, and that's what I wanted people to know me for. So once I had those 3 things, that's when I really locked in, didn't really care what other people were saying. And then that's when I hit my first 10K a month, like a whole week later before I almost gave up.
Yeah, that's huge. Do you think just like having that mindset about it allowed you to go viral quicker, just not really caring about what people had to say about it?
Yeah, I would say like once I had a vision for why I was posting, then it's all started to make sense. And then I wouldn't say I fully overcame the whole not caring about what other people think until late 2022. Like at that point, I was still making money. I was still like doing decent, but I still cared a lot about like what my friends thought or a lot about like what anybody said about me. And it wasn't until I learned something called the mirror of life, where basically anything anybody ever says about you, right? It's never actually about you. It's just an insecurity on their part projecting onto you, right? So if someone gives me a hate comment about like what I'm posting on social media, it's nothing to do about me, but it's just an insecurity, right? That's so bad, that's so painful that they had to comment that. And so when I see hate comments now or people talking shit or whatever it is, right? I just feel empathy toward them. Like I don't feel mad about it. I don't feel triggered about it. It's just, hey, this person's struggling and I get it. And then the mirror of life also works the other way around, right? So if you're talking shit about other people or you're hating on other people or you're judging other people, you're going to be insecure about all those same things. So let's say like I'm hating on your guys' black shirts for whatever reason. Then I'm going to be insecure for wearing the same black shirt myself. So it's the same thing. So like once I learned to truly love every single human being on this planet and not get triggered and just learn to accept them for who they are, like I don't care. So like when I post things on social media, it doesn't really bother me if anybody says anything because I know I don't judge them.
100%.
Yeah.
What's the most viral post you've had?
It was me shirtless in my pool talking about the most annoying part about being an entrepreneur. And so I will say,
How many views did it have?
it had at least to this day, at least 2.1 million views, maybe more. But yeah, I would say my most viral content has always been, I would call it like polarizing, where like you pick a side and then you stick with it 100%. Even if there's like a little hate involved.
Triggers people a
Some
little
people
bit.
are going to love it. Some people are going to hate it. But like if you stick to bland content where you try to appeal to everybody, it's not going to go viral. So the whole point of that video was like the most annoying part to me was, you know, I'd be chilling at like a random 1 p.m. or 3 p.m. on a weekday, and I don't really have as many people to like hang around with. Now, is that a little douchey? Yeah. Is that like a big thought in my mind? No. But I knew like, hey, if I made a video like that, it'll get a lot of attention, it'll get a lot of leads, and it'll make me a lot of money. So then I made it.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, Andrew Tate's the master of that, right?
Yeah.
Just knows how to trigger people to get views and get attention and monetize that. Okay.
Yeah.
What advice would you have for just the young men and women watching this that want to brand themselves and want to build a personal brand?
You just had to start. I think the reason why most people don't post is because they have like this perfectionism mindset. Like, yo, this first video got to be good. Like, it got to go viral. But the truth is, everybody's first video sucks. Like, it's awful. Like, if you guys, I don't know, I mean, I can't show it right now, but if you ever watch like my first TikTok or my first Instagram video or even like my first YouTube video, I unlisted it because it was so bad. Like, the way I talked back then was awful. But I would have never known that unless I posted it and got the feedback. So you just have to understand, don't try to be perfect, just start, and then just every video try to get better, right? So even if you look at my videos now compared to like a year ago, I'm like 10x better, right? 3 years ago, I'm 100x better. But I wouldn't have been able to do that if I wasn't posting. Like, you only get better by posting, looking at the feedback, and reiterating after that.
And posting consistently.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like, if you only post once a month, you're only going to get better once a month. But if you post every single day, then every day you're going to get better if you look at the views and how it performed.
How much of your content is filmed by you versus do you have a videographer that follows you around?
So I tried both. I tried people like videoing me. I tried talking about myself, at least for Instagram and TikTok specifically. Authentic content usually wins. So what I found, like, I have 2 Sony FX3s. Like, each of those cost me like $7,500 plus the lens, right? And my iPhone videos are the ones that have always got 1 million view videos. I've had 8 million view videos so far. 7 of them are all shot through the iPhone, like selfie style.
It's huge.
So at least for Instagram and TikTok, I don't have a videographer just because it doesn't perform as well as trying to be more authentic, just selfie FaceTime style.
Yeah, that's interesting, right? Because you know Ty Lopez?
Yeah.
Remember here in my garage? The
Oh,
Lamborghini? Yeah, they shot on an iPhone, and he talked about that. He said that, yeah, if I would have shot it on a professional camera, I would have done all this. He said it wouldn't have performed as well. where there's a lot of psychology that went into that. And especially in today's day and age with the content is people, exactly what you said, people want raw authenticity.
Yeah.
People just want people that are genuine. I think they're over this fake social media influencer rented Lamborghini BS.
Yeah, I think the psychology behind that, it's just like saturation, right? So there's so many people in my space, at least, the make money space, that have these professional cameras. And so then now the market's used to all people with professional cameras are probably trying to sell me something. And so when you have people's guard down, like let's say, example, like one of my viral videos was like me shirtless in my bed, like in the blankets. And so nobody expects someone to preach about making money or preach about, being a successful entrepreneur while laying in bed at like 1 p.m. So it's just a way to let people's guard down and actually get them to listen to your message in the first place. Because sometimes if it's too overly produced, nobody even watches in the first place.
100%. What's the most amount of adversity you faced in business?
There's been a lot. So I would say one was the time I just described, when I had like everything that I wanted in college, like the Microsoft internship, the girlfriend, all of that. And then people started talking shit. So I already went over that. The other time, we don't really talk about this a lot publicly, but so my Instagram marketing agency, we do a lot of like influencer shout outs, where we have a big time influencer do a mass shout out for all our clients, and our clients get about like 10 to 15K followers that way. Mm-hmm. So we were doing a deal with we met this person who lived in our building. He said he knew like all these influencers and he was connected with them, and he could like broker us a deal to have this one influencer shout out our clients. So let's say we paid him quite a bit of money. I can't say the exact amount, but it put a pretty big dent in our bank account. And let's just say he scammed us of that money. Like he never actually brokered a deal. He never actually hit up the influencer. He promised all these things, and we got nothing out of it. And it took us like 8 months to, get our lawyers to, take him to court.
Does he still live in our building?
Back. He got kicked out.
I was gonna say, let's jump it.
Yeah. And so the reason why that was, a tough time, it wasn't really about the money itself, but it was more like the effects after it, right? Where it was like the first time in a while, like we weren't comfortable with like how much we were making or how much we had in our bank account at that point, because we put a lot into it. Mm-hmm. And it put like a lot of like communication issues, like, like I wasn't as cool with it compared to, example, my partner Ibrahim. And eventually like we just had to talk it out, and like, like moving forward and big time decisions, like we both got to be on the same page before we move forward, like big time risks like this. But eventually we solved it, everything worked out, and we got the money back anyways.
That's good. Yeah, it definitely makes you really evaluate people, and unfortunately just in business, it's just there's shady, unethical people out there. Yeah. And it is what it is.
So lesson learned with that is we used to be very trusting people, but now we really like dig deep into like, okay, why is this person wanting to make a deal? Like, why does this person want to get this out of us? Like, what's in it for him? Mm-hmm. And so we've gotten a lot better in our BS detector to handle these things.
Understood. Let me ask you, what is it? Because I feel like a lot of people they underestimate what it takes to build a successful, incredible brand. What are some things that go into that you guys have really had to pour into that you maybe didn't realize at first when you were starting your businesses?
I would say the biggest thing is being able to show and not tell. So when I first started posting, I was doing a lot of like, I'm like the expert, like here's what you should do, blah, 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 blah. And I was getting like 200 views a video. But my first viral video on TikTok, it wasn't even me talking to the camera. It was just me recording a sales call, and I closed a $6,000 deal. And boom, got like 400,000 views in like 2 days. And then I started doing more of that. And then eventually I transitioned into like reviewing people's sales calls. And then eventually after that, I just transitioned into like showing like how much I was making, blah, blah, blah. And so the big thing with that is notice how like I'm never actually like trying to give advice, but I'm always just showing like what I'm doing. Like, here's my journey. Here's me closing a deal. Here's me making this money. So the biggest thing is kind of like what I said earlier, like my BS detector's up. but so are everybody else's. Like everybody's always super skeptical. So the only way to get rid of that skepticism and lower people's guards is actually show what you're doing. And if you're talking about what you're doing, you have to show proof that you know what you're talking about. Else nobody's going to give you the time of day.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I think a big thing in any business is you're starting is knowing how to wear all the hats. You know, we were talking a little bit before this podcast where when you first start, you don't have staff, you don't have employees. Like you got to do everything yourself. So you go from, you know, running all the sales calls yourself to hiring sales reps to creating systems and processes, et cetera. So walk us through the roadmap of the different hats you've had to wear and how you guys have evolved and elevated in the business in order to duplicate and leverage your time.
Yeah. So I always say it's just you have to solve the constraint in front of you, right? So if you could handle everything by yourself, like definitely do that. Like use your time as much as possible. But eventually, once your time runs out and you want to make more money, but you can't because you literally have no time, like that's when you need to hire. So like my evolution was when I was starting my agency from zero, it was just all me, right? I was getting the clients. I was taking the sales calls. I was the one delivering. And then after that, I started learning like, hey, I could actually outsource all my services to someone else. So then I just had like freelancers and contractors under me handling all the services while I try to land all the clients. And then eventually, that's when I met my partner Ibrahim and we partnered, was I get the clients and then my partner handles all the work. After that, if we wanted to make more money, the biggest constraint after that was there's only so many outreach messages I could send in my day. So then I hired a virtual assistant from the Philippines for $3 an hour to send all the DMs. And to this day, we still work together. She sends 240 DMs a day from my account alone. And then the same with Ibrahim's VA, he also sends 240 DMs a day. So that's like 480 DMs a day. So obviously, if we send that much, there's no way we can't land a client every day. So that's one. Two, after that is we got sales reps, right? Eventually, I was taking like 8-10 sales calls a day. And so we all get into this entrepreneurship journey to have that time, location, and financial freedom, right? And I can't do that if I'm just working basically another job, taking sales calls. So then I learned how to hire and manage a team and have sales reps closing deals for me. And basically now I get to wake up and I see my sales reps make me money. And obviously they get commission, so they make money too. But that's the thing, it's just every constraint, there's always another thing. And then eventually, once we had too many sales reps, I can't manage all of them myself. So then we got a sales manager to handle all of them. So it's always just that. It's just you have to solve the next constraint in front of you. And so I would say a couple other hires we made recently is we have a support director now handling all our support tickets, handling like any terms of like payment or billing questions. And eventually, once I started going viral, I have a whole editing team now. So I have someone handling my YouTube edits, someone handling my short form edits, and someone handling all my thumbnails now. So just whatever's taking up the most time, I try to do the hard work once and get someone else to do it for me so they could do it for me for the rest of my life without me having to touch it again.
Boom. Yeah. So it sounds like you have the concept of leverage down pretty well. But what you said was important. You figured out how to do it yourself first.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's tough. You can't just hire somebody and tell them to do it if you don't know how to do it yourself and train it.
Exactly.
So it's just because I used to have this. There's like in the entrepreneur world where it's just this. There's just a lot of rah-rah on social media about grind. Nobody can outwork me. But there's a lot of people that work hard. There's people in other countries that work 18 hours a day. They don't sleep, and they're not making a lot of money. So it's like you're working 12 hours a day. Like you're still getting smoked by a lot of people. So it's not necessarily like, yes, you have to work hard in entrepreneurship and in business. And I see you guys, like you guys are grinding. I mean, you guys are up till 2, 3 a.m. on your story posting, working on your business. But exactly what you said, it's not necessarily the person that works the hardest, it's the person that has the most leverage.
Yeah.
And that figures out how to duplicate themselves.
Yeah. I would say I always think in terms of like non-binary, where it's not like, can you work hard or should you work smart? It's like, why not do both?
Exactly.
Right? And like maximize the amount of time. And then eventually, once you have a constraint, try to get leverage and outsource that work. So that way you're working both smart and hard at the same time.
And that's how you elevate and move up
in
your business. 1,000%. Yeah. You can never grow a big business. You can never grow a big business as a one-man show.
Yeah.
But okay, cool. Well, in closing, because not only do you have I think you talked about some of the biggest adversity you faced was when you first started, but you also faced adversity along the road as well and along the way. And in my mind, I think one of the scariest things in business that is not talked about is when you're doing really good. When you're doing really good, the money's coming in, cash flow's there, because then you have that mindset of like, oh, then you take your foot off the gas, you get complacent, you're like, I already did all the hard work, and then boom, adversity hits, or this happens, or whatever happens, and that's when a good majority of people quit. So what are some ways that you guys have stayed hungry and continued to develop, grow the business, add multiple businesses, and just stay hungry?
Yeah. Complacency is always a sense of comfort. And so for me, the best way I usually grow is actually through pain. So every time like I'm complacent, I always get disgusted where I'm at. So example, when I was making 10K a month, I saw there's so many people making 100K a month and beyond. So like 10K a month isn't anything. And even to this day, like if I were to make 10K a month right now, like I'd be stressed. Like I'd be like scared about that.
Well, this may sound, dude, it's like 10K a month that's not very much money.
Exactly.
In today's day and age. Like if you're making below 150, like especially here in Chicago, dude, you can't breathe.
Exactly.
Like you walk outside and it costs you money. You can't even breathe there for
Exactly.
free. So
it's always about standards, right? So like for all of us now, it's like 10, 15K a month. That's almost like poverty, right? You can't really, do much with that in Chicago.
Like you got a little, like once you're doing like 250K and above, then you got a little wiggle room.
Yeah.
To like investments, maybe like go out to more nicer dinners, get a nicer car, whatever. But anything below that, inflation's real.
Yeah.
It's expensive out here.
So then when I wanted to reach 100K a month, like that became a standard. Like any month that wasn't hitting 100K, like it's like a hygiene standard. Like I feel disgusted with myself for not doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And then eventually, once we hit 100K a month, we're like, okay, like what's the next step? There's $1 million a month. So then my 100K a month didn't seem as cool anymore. It's like, okay, we got to take the next step. Mm-hmm. So then that's when we started like our new software company that we're starting right now. And we talked about this a little earlier before the pod, but like our software company got off to a hot start. Like we had like a good sales team. The sales team was printing right away. And then for whatever reason, like our old sales director just went MIA. I can understand, like he told us afterwards, like his best friend died and his wife got sick. And so we just went MIA, and that's partially our fault because we weren't managing him. So we didn't know he went MIA for 2 weeks. And then our whole sales team just quit for whatever reason. And so then we just had to rely on our MRR. Like right now we're making about like 15, 20K a month just through low ticket subscriptions. But like I said earlier, like that's not really a lot of money. So then that's when we faced adversity. Like, we have a lot of, obviously the more you grow, the more you think you could afford anything, right? So we had like a lot of expenses we still had to pay without that 100K a month income coming in. Mm-hmm. And so, I'd say that's like the most recent adversity was dealing with the whole sales team mishap, getting a new sales team as fast as possible and getting them up to speed. And just recently they started closing way more deals, and now we're back up to pace to get to 100K, or back up to pace to 100K a month, trying to scale back to $1 million a month.
So we're talking about like standards, and you did the 10K, you did the 100K, you're shooting for the $1 million, which I believe you guys will get there. What does it look like for you guys, with this business, this new company, 3 years, 5 years down the road? What is your guys' goal?
Yeah. So I'd say goal for this year, which is 2024 right now, goal is at least to get back to that. So my biggest month with the agency was 157K. So the goal is to beat that by this year in 2024. And then goal by 2025 is at least $250,000 a month. So that's 250K a month. And then obviously by 3 to 5 years, you want to hit that $1 million a month.
That $1 million. So it's going to take a couple of years.
Yeah. So I'm not just saying this is going to happen overnight. Hell no. Like what I learned is like a lot of things compound over time. And so the only way.
Hold on. Renzo, you said you're not going to be a millionaire overnight, bro?
It's not how it works. Unless
not how it works.
The only way you could do that is like you sell a $10 million deal and you get a 10% commission. But you got to be a big time player for that.
Oh, you're saying it's going to actually take 5 years? I just want to point that out.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to become wealthy overnight, but it takes time. It takes time. It takes patience. So, but I'm sorry. But what were you saying?
Oh, I was
didn't
just
mean
saying,
to
like,
interrupt
success is an exponential curve. It's not like a straight line where the more work you put in, the more success you get, and the more money you make. It's exponential. So there's like this whole period where you make no money. Maybe you spend I spent a whole year not making a single dollar online. And then eventually, once I kept putting in the work, then I hit that breaking point and the success curve went up. So it's the same thing trying to scale to $1 million a month. It's like we're putting in a lot of work now and maybe not seeing the results that we want to just yet, but we know all that work putting in is going to lead to the acceleration point to get there. Yeah. And so part of the exponential curve is time, right? So when you're trying to get to $1 million a month, it's not going to happen overnight. But if you keep doing the right things and overcoming the right constraints over and over and over, like eventually you're going to get there. So I don't put like a time limit on reaching it. I just know if we keep doing all the proper things, we're going to get there eventually.
Yep, correct. Focus on the actions, the activity. Focus on what's in your control.
So you guys had, with the growth agency, you guys had like a successful business. You guys did really well with that, your first business, Uni Ibrahim. Now you guys are on to this next one. What's it like having a successful business? Now you're on round 2, we could call it, where you want to scale even past that, but you're still at the ground level because it's a brand new company. What's that like, kind of like going through your second round with your second business?
Obviously, there's a lot more confidence in the second business because the businesses are pretty similar. Obviously, there's a couple differences, like one's a software and one's an agency. But in terms of like marketing and getting customers or clients, it's not as different as you might think. So we had a lot of confidence going in, which probably led to us having like higher expectations to what we should be doing our first month. Like I thought our first month we'd hit like 100K just like that. Clearly it didn't work out like that. We made 29K our first month, and now we're in month 2. So I would just say it is like a bit of an adjustment period having a third partner. Like obviously me and Ibrahim, we live together. So like anytime we have any communication we need to do, like we just go to the living room, talk it out, figure it out, and boom, next thing. But with a partner who lives in Vegas, now it's like we have to wait for like the next meeting, or we have to wait till everybody's free to hop on a call and figure things out. So I would say things have been just a bit more complex having a third partner, and our team's a lot bigger now with the software company, having a lot more moving parts out of my control. So I think it's just a different skill. In terms of the agency, like I was doing a lot of things were in my control where I could just like fix something just like that because I was the one in charge of it. But now as a software company, I had to be more of a leader and a manager, making sure everybody does their part to get the job done. So just a different hat that I had to put on. To
the role's different.
100%. Well, Renzo, in closing, if you could go back in time and give yourself one piece of advice to your younger self just starting out in business, what would it be?
That's a good question.
It's a hard one.
If there is one piece of advice,
I feel like it's hard to narrow it down to one. Because for me,
because I have like 2 right now, so I'm trying to pick one. But
share both.
I'll share both of them. First one, a little cheesy, but if you do have the money, definitely just definitely use the money to save yourself more time. So what does that mean? So instead of like me spending a whole year trying to learn how to run an agency by myself through YouTube, like the second I hired a mentor, I landed a $2,000 client within 3 days, made 10K a month my first month. So imagine if I had the money to do that from the start. Like I would have had a whole year of experience making more money.
Boom.
And I'd probably be way more ahead now if I did that earlier. So just like, that's how I got so farther ahead compared to everybody else who first started with me, was like I took the time, or I spent the money to actually learn from people ahead of me to shortcut my time. So that's one. Number 2, this is a bit deeper, but every part of my entrepreneurship journey, like I wish I could just like go back and enjoy those moments more. Like I was always stressing about like the next thing. So example, like when I first started, like I was stressing trying to get to 10K a month. And so I never really enjoyed that time putting in all that work. I was just waiting until I hit 10K. And then eventually when I wanted to reach 100K a month, I was spending all this time trying to hit 100K. I was never actually enjoying the time in the present moment trying to get there. And so like a clear example of this is, it was like my last year of college. So I actually didn't drop out of college. I graduated in 3.5 years, but my 4th year of college, like I just couldn't wait to like move to Chicago, live my best life, and start a whole new life basically outside of college. But then once I moved there, it wasn't as like great and as dreamy as I thought. it was kind of like I moved to a whole new city with no new friends, or with no friends. I had to like start a whole new life. And then I just thought to myself, like, damn, like I wish I could have gone back to college and like enjoy all those moments that I just had instead of like worrying about the future. So I'd say about other piece of advice besides learning from a mentor is just every moment, like you're going to wish you could go back to that moment and like relive it and actually enjoy it. It's like, you might as well enjoy it now. And I guess one last thing, going back to content, like I wish I took more videos and more pictures
Yes.
when I first started. Because that's super important in content now, is like showing your before story.
Same.
So I wish I was posting more. I wish I was documenting more, but the only thing you control is now. So now, as you see, I'm posting hella videos, taking hella pictures,
Yeah.
tons of videos and all that, so that I could document my journey for later. Like once I reach 1 million a month, people could see the journey of how I scaled from 100K to 1 million a month.
Yeah, that's huge. I mean, because I'm the same way. I'm like, damn, I like wish I would have documented more. And think about how cool that would be if we could go back and watch Steve Jobs' entire progression of building Apple, or Elon Musk when he was building PayPal and Tesla and SpaceX, or all these different things. So, yeah, I mean, me and like Nestor we have an entire library of just stockpiled footage we've been compiling the past couple of years at this point.
Sweet.
And, exactly, I couldn't agree more, is just stopping to smell the flowers, like enjoying the process. That's one thing I'm guilty of too. And the way I look at it now is blissful discontentment, where, you're thankful for what you have, you're happy where you're at, but you're always seeking to get to the next level.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of what I said before, where like you want to put yourself in pain to get to the next level.
Yes.
But
Yes.
it's also a little contradictory, is like you have to enjoy the process to get there instead of like waiting to get to that goal. So that's why I said, like, for me, like I'm not putting a time limit to a million a month. Like I know I'm going to get there eventually, but like I'm enjoying my process and enjoying the grind to get to that point.
100%. Renzo, well, we appreciate you hopping on the podcast, brother.
Appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
Yes,
Loved
sir.
it.